Boker Tov.
בוקר טוב.
סליחה, אני מצטער קצת בבוקר. So in the future, I guess I'll know David will have the Zoom set up, so we just push start to start the meeting.
No, Charles will, but yes.
Oh, Charles will. Okay, thank you. All right, so somebody, or I will, somebody will have it set up and then we'll start the meeting on time. So good morning. I think Barbara, you had reached out to me by email, Boker Tov, Barb. Oh, yes, good morning. Or Brenda, I'm sorry, you had reached out to me by email, so welcome. This is the Hebrew. We're all working at different levels, so everybody's welcome, and we'll just kind of like support and assist everybody. I mean, basic Hebrew letter recognition would be helpful, but that's okay if you don't have that. We'll work towards it. We're working with this book, and let's see if I'm facing the camera. Does everybody at home have a copy of this book?
I have one.
I have it.
Awesome. Okay. So I think only one person, unless Barb, I can't remember if you were here previously, but we have one new person who's joining us. We're currently on chapter 3. Each chapter kind of builds and does a bit of a review at the beginning of the chapter. So I think maybe what we'll do for everybody that has been here is kind of start with the blessings at the end of chapter 2. You mean the last time we met?
Yeah,
We didn't, I thought we had covered chapter 2.
that was our read ahead before we talked about. We redid. session
Really?
1.
Okay, sorry. I thought that we had like read ahead, talk about chapter 2. Okay, sorry. I thought we were actually already moving to chapter 3 because this is the third time we've met. Sorry. Okay, but probably yes, because we did a review of 1. I'm sorry. It's pretty warm in here, so I am. Okay. All right. So then actually that might be easier then. If we start then with chapter 2. And that would be on page 6 of the textbook. And basically, chapter 2 talks about the feminine noun. Briefly, because we did talk about it before, in Hebrew, nouns are identified as masculine or feminine. As a result, adjectives and verbs are conjugated to match that appropriately. So a masculine word like av, abba, would have a masculine adjective. Av yafeh, a pretty father. Av nechmad, a nice father. Ima, a feminine word. Ima nechmada, a nice mother. Ima yafa. So in addition to having adjectives match, verbs will match as well. So if it's a masculine noun, it will have a masculine verb. So that's different than English. At the chapter 1 introduced some common masculine words that we see in the Torah. And just to go over them, they're on page 2. Av, father. Achad, 1. Ani, I, or me, depending on where you use it in the sentence. Ani could be I or me. Ata, the masculine form of you. So in prayers, traditionally we refer to God as masculine. So you, when we're talking about you to God, we're saying Ata Gadol. We're using the masculine version of the pronoun you, and we're using the masculine version of corresponding adjectives. Ata Gadol, Ata Melech, you are a king. The pronoun hu, which means he. Ze, this. Ze Melech, this is a king. And this again, the term this is masculine or feminine. So this is the masculine definition. This is the masculine definitive. So ze melech, this king. Zot malka, this queen. So we'll review that in chapter 2. Yisrael is either the nation of Israel or the people of Israel. Either way, it's a masculine word. Yisrael. Melech, king, like Melech David. Moshe, the name of Moses. And probably people have heard the term Am Yisrael Chai, the people or the nation of Israel live. So depending on context, the word Am means people or nation. So those 10 important vocabulary words were the 10 words that, the 10 terms or 10 words that we learned in chapter 1. And on page 5 of the textbook, you see the Shema, which the book cites as a good example of the Hebrew noun sentence. We had talked about how in the present tense, there is no linking verb, is, are. So for example, Moshe Melech, Moses is a king. Ata Abba, you are a father. So the linking verb in Hebrew in the present tense is assumed. You read it in translation. So when we're saying the Shema, which uses some of the Hebrew vocabulary from the first chapter, Shema Yisrael, and Shema here with your ears is from the verb lishmoa, to hear. So basically, the nation or the people of Israel are being instructed, Shema Yisrael, hear, O Israel, Adonai. And when we see 2 yuds together with the vowels, which come under, is everybody aware that in Hebrew the vowels are written kind of under the line? So in other words, or over, kind of over or under. They're kind of dots and dashes that come under the letters. So when you see 2 yuds together, that word, although it doesn't read Adonai phonetically, that is how we pronounce the word. Is everyone familiar with that? Okay. So Adonai Eloheinu. So we talked about previously the names of God as we see them in the Bible, and we've seen Adonai, El, Eloheinu, Elokeinu, Elohim. We've seen, so Yud, Vav, Yud, He, which is a tetragram for the word of God, for God. So Eloheinu, El, it's like Elohim Shelanu, which we haven't started talking about how we talk about our something, but our God, it's a condensed, or what's it, a contraction for Elohim Shelanu, Eloheinu. So it's kind of a contraction, so it makes it shorter from Ha Elohim Shelanu, our God, to Eloheinu. Adonai, again, the word God, is the linking verb assumed, Echad, the numeral or the number 1. So is everyone comfortable with what I've said so far? Does anybody have any questions? I know that was a little bit fast, but for everybody else that's been here, I just wanted to. So are we comfortable with that so far? Okay. Oh, yes.
I'm just like kind of like just thinking about like, so for like Alef it's like A, but sometimes it's like O and sometimes it's E. How do you tell the difference?
Oh, okay. So there are some, so Alef, that's a good question. The first letter of the Hebrew alphabet actually doesn't have a sound. It's kind of a silent letter. So Alef, when you see it in a word, assumes the sound of the vowel that corresponds to it. So is everybody familiar with the different vowels? Yeah, so the vowels,
Oh.
are they in the book? I don't think so. Is that a different book? I don't think so, but let me turn if I can turn the camera to the board.
I have
Oh,
the vowels on.
okay, maybe
Right there on the
that
bottom.
might be easier. Okay, so if everybody can see, these dots and dashes are Hebrew vowels. They usually appear underneath the letter, and you'd read the letter first. So if you saw this vowel right here, there we go, eh. If it came under a bet, it would sound like beh. These two dots under a letter make the sound a. So under a bet, bay. These two, a line, and then a line with a little tongue. Ah, ba. This little letter, one dot, sounds like E. The three, and these are just memorization, and I can print out a worksheet and send them to everybody if I have your emails. Ooh. Again, E.
I think the first one was O.
Oh, is it on top?
Yeah,
Oh, it's
yeah,
on top.
It's unevolved.
Oh, it's on top of the letter. Okay, got it. It's upside down. Sorry. Okay, so this is E under a letter. And this, when you see this, it's like a glottal stop. It actually is no sound. So if you see this, it means stop on the letter. So like if this were under a bet, so you just stop at the b. M for Eva. So this one, somebody pointed out, thank you, Morris, that this letter, this dot is actually on top of a letter, which is hard to see, sorry, backwards. So when the little dot is not under a letter, when it's on top of a letter, it makes the sound O, as in shalom. So this dot on top of a letter can be either a dot by itself, or it can actually be a vav with the dot over it. Either way, it makes the sound O. But when you see a vav, which is, try to find it here, looks like, oops, now backwards, I can't see it. This letter here, a vav with a dot on top of it, it changes to an O. Okay, so these are the Hebrew vowels. Like I said, for the most part, they go under the letters. Sometimes, as in the case of O, it will go over a letter or be part of a vav. Yeah, and often in the Torah does use vowels, but in modern Hebrew, like in newspapers and books, they don't use vowels. So people just have to sight read without vowels. Okay. Thank you so much. That was very helpful. And I can send a copy of a sheet of just the letters with the sounds they make and just the vowels. So you can kind of work on just identifying them. And Duolingo, which is a free app on a phone, also has a good program for letter recognition and vowel recognition. And that's Duolingo. I'll send that link. Thank you. And remind me before you go, well, actually, I think I have Barb, Ed, and Brenda. I think I have all your emails. So I'll just add you to the list. Okay. All right, so chapter 2 on page 6, Ba'amud on page 6, And I was starting to point out in Hebrew, there are we call like root letters. So for the term 6, numeral 6 is shin shin for shesh, yom shishi, the 6th day. So we can start to maybe recognize connectivity in words and how they're like adapted to be similar. So ba'amud shesh, on page 6, oral review exercise. So this is a review of chapter 1, masculine nouns. Okay, so all of the words and the corresponding pronouns will be masculine. Okay, so mispar achad, number 1, mispar achad, bavakasha Mike, efshar likro. And what I'm asking him is it possible? Likro, kore, to read. Likro, to read.
Ani av.
Ani av. And can you translate? Letargem, to translate.
I am father.
I am father, or I am a father. Again in Hebrew, and we had talked about this before too, but there's no linking verb in the present tense. There's also no word for a or an. That word is also assumed. So ani av could be I am father, but that's not actually how we would translate something. We'd say I am a father, right? I am a father. So the a is assumed. There is no word for that. There is a definitive the, which we'll talk about, but there is no a or an. So ani av, I am a father. Morris, bavakasha mispal shtayim.
Ata melech.
Ata melech. And the targum.
You are a king.
You are a king. You masculine, yes. You are a king. Bavakasha, afshar likro mispal shalosh.
Who Moshe?
Who? Moshe.
He is Moses.
He is Moses. Yes, he. The Hebrew pronoun who means he. Who? Moshe. He is Moses.
Israel. So Israel is a land.
Is
Or a
actually
people.
Yisrael Am. Am is a nation or a people. Eretz is land. So Eretz Yisrael is the land of Israel. Am Yisrael is the nation or people of Israel. And actually, Am is a masculine word, but Eretz is a feminine word. Doesn't sound like a feminine word, but it is. But I guess if you think of it like as the motherland, that's how I remembered it. It's a feminine. Eretz is a feminine word. Mispar chamesh, chamesh.
Echad, this is 1.
Ze echad. This. So there are 2 ways to say. Well, actually, there are 3 ways to say this in Hebrew. Singular masculine. Ze echad. This is 1. Zot
So,
mora. This is a teacher because I'm a female teacher. Zot mora. Or ele studentim. We're actually maybe get to that today. Ele studentim. These are students. So when you're talking about these, there's only one term for it. They don't masculine or feminine. It's just they, these, or rather these. Ele studentim. So for these are students. And when you talk about a group, again in Hebrew, we do sort things out by gender. But if it's a mixed group of masculine and feminine, it will always become masculine. In fact, if there were a group of 100 women and 1 man, it would still become the masculine term. So ele studentim. If I was just talking about Tamar, Janine, and Bianca, I'd say ele studentiot. These are feminine or female students, but it's the same word, ele. Okay, so ze echad, this is 1. Tamar?
Moshe Av,
Moses is a father.
Moshe Av, Moses is a father. Exactly. Mike?
Moshe Melech, Moses is a king.
Moshe Melech, Moses is a king. Morris?
Who Melech, he is a king.
He is a king. Hu Melech. Bianca.
Oh, for 8,
Uh,
9,
Tasha.
Ze,
Ze
this is a people / nation.
This is a people / nation. Exactly. So ze So that's a review of masculine words. Any questions based on that? Okay. So each chapter will introduce 10 new vocabulary words, and they're starting kind of with the most common words we would see as we approach the Torah. So I'm gonna read them once. Well, actually, you know what? I think the class may know some of these terms. So why don't we go around and read each word, new word, and say the definition of it. And I think, are we on Janine? Yes.
Ain is mother.
Aim is mother. And here we see, it goes back to the question that Bianca asked. The first letter is an Alef, which has no sound of its own. But the vowel, the 2-dot vowel, is underneath the Alef, which makes the A sound. So it becomes im, mother, im. Now in informal Hebrew, we probably heard the term ima. Ima for, it's more like mommy, mom, and mom, yeah, mom, mommy. Im is the more formal mother. Okay.
Bracha.
Bracha. So Alan just read bracha, which means
Blessing.
blessing. And so we see here the glottal stop under the B, which means it just sounds like a hard, or under the B, under the bet, which means it's just a hard B without any vowel sound contributed to it. So bracha. So the first vowel you're going to hear is the A under the resh. Bracha. Bracha. Okay.
Eretz, land.
Eretz. And we're probably familiar with that with Eretz Yisrael. Eretz Yisrael. And again, the Alef assumes the sound of the vowel that comes under it, which is eh. Eretz. Okay.
At, you.
At, you. For a female. So if you were speaking to a female, you'd say at em, you are a mother. If I was speaking to Tamar, at em. If I was speaking to Mike, ata av. Ata av, you are a father. At em, you are a mother. Okay, ele horim, they are parents. Ele horim. Okay. Okay. Ha. Oh, sorry. Oh, I just read it.
Ha.
Ha. So
So this would be like, it'd be like the ha'av or
Yes.
hamelech is the father or the king.
yes. So in Hebrew, the word the actually attaches to the word it's making it, the word it's defining. So it's actually the letter hey with a vowel under it. Usually the vowel a, which you can see in this example, ha'av, hamelech. Sometimes, and again, this is going to be just something you have to memorize. It'll sound more like he instead of ha, but you'll know it when you see it, and that's a more advanced concept. And like more advanced words, it changes into more of a he sound. Anybody in speaking or reading would still understand you, but for the most part, the word the is ha, the letter he, attached to the word it's making a definite. So as Morris told us, Av is a father, ha'av, the father. And it's written all together. Hey, Alef, Vav, Ha'av. Ha'aretz. And actually, eretz changes to aretz when you put a ha in front of it. So there's like conjugation rules. So ha'aretz. So it would be hey, Alef, Resh, Sadi Sofit, all one thing. It's not like separate in English where it's a separate word. It just attaches. Okay. Next word. He, and just say it loud because I'm not
Oh,
sure they can hear
sorry.
it. That's okay.
He.
He, which means she. So, yeah. Who means he? He means she. He. And when you see the term it, that's also because if I were talking about a book, for example, the book is on the table. It is here. So, hasefer al shulchan hu po. So when I'm not saying he is here about a book because the book doesn't have a pronoun. I'm saying it, as in the masculine. So who and he can also mean it. Like if you were talking about a feminine object, like he, aretz, it is a land. Who, it is a nation. Not he, or that maybe that's a different one. Hu sefer, it is a book. Kind of weird, but that's how it is. Next.
Okay. So, it means this.
So, which means this in the feminine,
The
right?
feminine.
Yeah. So zot mora, this is a teacher. Ze av, this is a father. Ze shulchan, this is a table. Zot kisei, this is a chair. Okay. Me
Who,
means who. So yeah, these are, yeah. Who means he means she, me is who. So me kamocha, is everyone familiar with that? Me kamocha. And what are we asking in that prayer? Who is like you, right? Who is like you, oh God? Me kamocha. So sometimes like when we're like, oh wait, I know that word, because right, that's what I'm saying. Who is like you? Okay, me, who?
And that's the same for masculine and feminine, that word, right?
Yes. So who is a genderless pronoun? Because we actually don't know, right? When we're asking who. So me, you can use for both masculine and feminine. Mize, well actually, yes, mize, who is this? Who is this? Mize. However, I'd say mizot, who is this? Mi ele, who are they? So it's actually also plural. So it's masculine singular, feminine singular, and plural. Me, who. Just like in English, right? Who are you? Who are they? Yeah. Okay.
Shabbat,
Shabbat. And is Shabbat. And it's a feminine word. We talk about Shabbat as a feminine.
On some of those people.
Oh,
On the screen.
God, I forget about, I'm sorry, guys. I'm like, yes. I forget that you have your books. All right, Barb. Thank you.
Sarah, and that's Sarah.
Sarah, yes. Okay, so we did talk about this. A noun is a word for a person, place, or thing. It's either masculine or feminine, and you do need to know whether it is masculine or feminine. And it becomes important, it talks about why later, but really we know why. We know because we need to know how to conjugate it, both with verbs, matching verbs, or what adjective to use or what definitive to use. So everything changes based on the noun. So this is a complete list of all the words we've learned so far. Do you want to read through them one more time? Or do you want to move forward? Would you like to read through them one more time? Or are you comfortable?
I'm good.
I'm good.
Okay, so then moving on, Bamud Shmone on page 8. When we saw the letter hey with the underneath, we learned that the English word the is not a separate word. It's attached to the beginning of the Hebrew noun. And usually, as I said, there will be a vowel under the hey. It'll usually be an sound, but sometimes it will be an sound. It also talks about that there would be a dot in the letter following the hey. That's true biblically. It's not true in modern written Hebrew. So you can learn that, and you might wonder why, when there's the hey and it becomes a specific word, why there's a dot in the next letter, and that's just a rule in biblical Hebrew that is not followed in modern written Hebrew. Yes,
Where do you put the dot when you write your cursive? Like a mem?
you don't. No, nobody does that. I mean,
Okay, 'cause-
yes,
'cause
it's
cursive-
literally a biblical.
Which would be in the calligraphy of
Yes,
Hebrew.
it would
so-
be in like Hebrew calligraphy in
Right.
Torah.
And so you wouldn't.
And
write
when
it
you're
that way
writing
anyway.
in cursive, I mean, I guess if you were like writing to translate really quickly, like what does this Bible passage say?
Yeah,
And you were writing it out, you could you'd just put it in, you know what I mean? Like,
right. Kind of put it between the,
yeah, wherever you could look,
okay.
Yeah.
Center, just like the shin, I guess, right?
Yeah.
Just kind of wedge it in there.
So that rule about where the dot goes following a hey is a biblical rule. So you'll recognize that the dot does not change the way the word is read. It does not change the sound. Okay. So, well, now it talks about variations of the. Sometimes there's no dot following the hey, and that's when the vowel under the hey changes. I was talking about from to eh. Do you want me to talk through why that grammatical rule is like that? I mean, it's a really esoteric grammatical point, but basically you just have to memorize it. Do you want me to tell you why it does that? Or, so if you can see, av becomes ha'av, ha'em, ha'am, eretz becomes ha'aretz. So, that's literally just something you'll have to, when we talk about Eretz Israel, and then we say ha'aretz. And probably you know that because people have probably said to you, have you ever visited ha'aretz? But no one says, have you ever visited ha'eretz? I mean, probably it's just like something you just know to say, right? So by now you've learned several words that have letters with dots in them. And so I think we talked about this before. When the Hebrew alphabet has letters that sound differently depending whether or not they have a dot in the center, this is separate from the rule about putting a hey in front of the word and making an indefinite word a definite word. This is the rule of how you make a vowel sound from a soft sound to a hard sound. And this occurs when you put the dot in the middle of a letter. This changes several letters. The first letter it would change is the letter vav. I mean, not vav, vet. Alef, and we say bet, vet. But bet and vet are really the same letter other than the dot in the center, right? So when you add can you see I feel like this thing is moving.
It moves when you move, I think.
Is that really?
think so.
Okay, weird.
It's very strange. When she moves over there, it kind of.
Okay, well. All right, can you all see the board? No.
It'll get there.
Will it? Will it?
I don't know.
Okay, that's creepy.
It's
It is kind
coming.
of, oh, no. Oh, that's my head.
Okay, huh, well,
Follows you sometimes. I'm not sure what the.
No,
No, that's me.
that made it more you.
Oh,
No.
Okay, well, now I really messed it up. Okay,
Is that,
how's the board? No,
oh, okay.
there's TV.
Go back that other way.
Thank you, sorry,
Oh, there we go.
there we go,
There we
perfect.
go.
All right, maybe we'll just leave it here so that we can write on the board. So, this letter is what? Barb, what is this letter?
It's hard to see it.
Oh,
Yeah.
it's invisible, never mind. Okay, I will ask, I'm sorry, I will ask someone in the class.
Oh, I don't know. That's better.
Yeah.
That's better. Plain English.
Yeah, okay, I'll just ask somebody, Bianca, what is this letter?
But
Vet. It actually is a vet. And the reason we know, and let's see if I can. You see this letter?
Yeah.
It's a vet, okay? It's soft sounding. When I do this, what does it become? Ed?
The bet.
A bet, right. So it becomes from the soft sound to a hard sound. Can anybody think of another letter that does that?
Hey and Faye.
Sorry, I didn't hear.
Hey and Faye.
Yes. See? Oops. Pay and Faye. What about this letter?
The chaf,
Tough, and now
kaf.
and this is a little different, but again, it's the same when you move the, oops.
That's a shin and that's a sin.
Yes, exactly. So when you move that little dot, it changes things from hard to soft letters. So there are all kinds of reasons the Hebrew words have dots in them, and the rules are really complicated. As I was about to explain it, but then it actually says it's not important at this point to really understand why it does that. It's more of a sight sound. So
So like at top, just it has a dot because it has a dot in the middle.
yes.
Top. Okay. 'Cause there's no other.
There's
Letter.
no real reason for
Okay.
it, and it doesn't in modern Hebrew.
Okay.
It does in biblical Hebrew.
Okay.
So is there any logic between this, like the similar phonic sounds and the usage of above versus a vet? I mean,
No.
it's just what it is.
It's just what it is.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, one of the reasons is that a vet becomes a bit.
Yeah,
And again, in a book, you just have to know it's a bet or a vet. You have to understand how to pronounce it by knowing the word.
right.
And so a bet can become a vet, just like a vav can become an O or an U. So the letter vav, which should be, and you
You want
guys
more
can't really
paper?
see the board. Yeah, and I should have a marker instead of, what is this? Oh, I should write on this. Thank you. All right, so this letter vav.
I have to.
Oh, bye. Good luck. Okay. When you put the dot, when the dot changes. Okay. When you put a dot on top of the valve, what does this sound like? Oh, it's not a V anymore. It's an O. When the dot is underneath it, V. 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 It actually, you do pronounce the V. When the dot is in the middle, like it's getting punched in the stomach, it's ooh and not a vav anymore. So even the letter changes according to where the dots are. So I think basically that is why there's two different letters, because they're used differently, even though they have the same sound.
And so people call Safta or Sapta. Is it right, wrong, or is it just people refer to it differently?
Sapta? You mean,
Like my mom refers to herself as Sapta. She uses the P instead of the F. Just weird.
oh, she says Sapta?
Uh-huh.
Huh. Well, the actual pronunciation is with a fe,
Right.
Safta.
Yeah, she goes by Sapta.
Interesting.
This
Okay.
is Israeli. I have no idea.
Okay.
I just go
Maybe
with
it's just a cute
it.
nickname.
Maybe.
I don't know. Because it's actually Safta. And the word for grandfather is Saba. So, yeah. And there was something else I was going to say too about these dots, but now I don't remember. Sorry. No, that's okay. But I don't know why. That's a cute name,
I don't-
Safta. Her grandmother is Safti. So, all right. Ba'amud Esel. 10. Yes.
Remember, I just remember when, and if you were to write the Yiddish, those same Yiddish words, Bubby and Zadie in Hebrew, how would you see that in like a newspaper in Jerusalem Post?
Oh.
Or how would that? Oh,
They would write it in Hebrew. They would write it with the Hebrew letters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Phonetically Zadie.
Phonetically, yeah. Bubby, like Zadie, they'd
Zadie. Right.
yeah, I mean,
Okay. So they would
Zadie,
just, they would
yeah.
just phonetically.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
It
So
would be, but it's not really a Hebrew word, right?
it's not a Hebrew word,
Right.
Bubby and Zadie, it's a
Right.
Yiddish word.
Right.
But yeah, they would probably just use, I mean, that's how it would be written, unless you were actually maybe quoting somebody, and you know what I mean? Or
Right.
writing it like, or if you were reading it in a book where someone was saying, Bubby, did you make the borscht today or whatever? Then they might actually write the Bubby using the Yiddish, because
Right.
Yiddish does use Hebrew letters, you know what I mean? So, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, on page 10, more masculine and feminine words. So it's talking about how pronouns change according to gender and according to singular or plural. But the first thing we work on is the gender-based pronoun. So Brenda, on the top of page 10, we're talking about the masculine form of the pronoun you. And can you read the first sentence or sound it out?
Ata, you are a father.
You are a father, right. And Ed?
At aim, you are a mother.
Yes, at em. So now it's saying there are two words for this in Hebrew. And that is because ze refers to the masculine nouns for people, places, or things. And zot refers to the feminine nouns. It says people or things, but it's also places. Because il, which city, is a feminine word. So you'd say zot il. Okay. So, Barb, the first sentence and the second set of paragraphs on page 10.
Hang on one second. Are we at, this is the king?
Yes.
Okay, Ze HaMelech.
Ze hamelech. This is the king.
You want me to go on?
No, go ahead, Mike.
Zeha'am.
Ze ha'am.
This is.
This is the people. And the difference, there's a little bit of a difference with the letter Aleph and the letter Ayin, a lot of people think they sound the same. Aleph is actually is a neutral letter. It really doesn't have a sound, but Ayin does. It's a little bit I. So like that, yeah, I mean, you can kind of like, oh, you know, like, but if you can't do it, like, oh, and it is a hard sound, the versus like, Zaima, the you know, so you can kind of hear the little,
Courtney, sorry, can you say that again?
oh, yeah.
Like, just say, the way it should be
Oh,
pronounced.
Yeah, so it's kind of like a Ayin versus a Aleph. Aleph, it's like a, so it's a little bit of like a, yeah. So it's hard. It's like Reish isn't like actually a hard R. It's not Rosh Hashanah. It should be a Rosh Hashanah. You probably like hear the Rosh Hashanah.
So you roll a little bit like
You
Spanish.
roll a little bit like Spanish.
Right.
And just like challah isn't challah, it's challah, right? So there's but these are also, so just in like thinking about it, if you want to like try to start to like roll your R's a little, like, and that's how I actually got my kids like to think about it, like the Spanish equivalent. Like, I don't actually speak Spanish, so now I'm not coming up with any words, but anyway, but like, yeah, it's like Spanish. So you roll it a little bit, like Rosh Hashanah. Yeah, the yeah. So anyway, just because you're like, why does Aleph and Ayin sound exactly alike? They don't actually. They're a little different. So okay.
Zos,
And he just read it in the Ashkenazi way.
Yeah.
Zosam. That's how my dad reads it too. It's not incorrect. It is actually correct. But in modern Hebrew, you'd say Zotam.
Zos.
Zotam. Yeah. But that's how they read it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we have Zot Haaretz.
Zot haaretz.
Okay,
Zot haaretz.
Zot Haaretz.
Zot haaretz. And we see how here the eretz from land becomes aretz when it becomes aretz, like haaretz, this land. Yeah, zot haaretz, this land. And we use zot because land is a feminine term. So the word ani, which means I or me, like, but here we're talking about, you know, simple present tense linking sentences. So ani is used for both masculine and feminine. Of course, it's singular. So, Alan,
Ani Moshe.
ani Moshe,
Ani Sarah.
and he Sarah, because she's a feminine. Yes. And the word me again means who as a question, and it again is a genderless question. So Barb.
Where are we? Sorry.
Oh, no, that's okay. The bottom of page 10, it
Yep.
says the word me.
Yep.
Ma'am, the word me means who as a question.
Okay. So me, ata, who are
Me.
you?
Who are you? And when in this sentence, Barb, can you tell us, are you asking a male or a female? Who are you in this? Who would you
A
be asking?
male.
Yes, a male. Can you think of how you might say, who are you to a female?
Me, at.
Exactly, mi'at. Esther, 100%, 100%. Okay. Esther, so that's actually a lot of people say that for like 10, like good job, Esther. Or 100%. 100%.
Or mazel tov.
Mazal tov. Okay. Sorry. Okay, Brenda.
Who Haim is the mother.
Me.
Oh, me. I'm sorry. Me Haim.
Me. M.
Haim.
Mi ha'em, exactly. Who is the mother? All right. Translate the following sentences into English. And, all right, so Mike, do we want to do these two at a time? Because they actually are related. So if you could read 1 and 2, and then the next person 3 and 4, and translate.
Who of? So he is father. He's
He
the
is
the
a father. A father.
A father.
Yeah, because there's no hey. Who of?
Oh, the next one is who ha'av, who's the father. Or he's the father.
He is the
the
father.
father.
Yes. So there's the difference, right? Who of? He is a father. Who ha'av? He is the father. Morris, if you could read the next two.
Yeah, he, aim, she, his mother,
Is a mother.
is a mother, and then he, aim, she is the mother.
Yes.
Okay. So we have ze, this is the people,
A people.
a people,
Ze'am.
and ze, this is the people.
Yes.
So bracha, this is a blessing. So ta bracha, this is the blessing.
Yes.
Ata melech is, he is a
You-
king.
You.
Oh, I'm sorry, you are.
No,
a
that's
king.
okay.
And ata hamelech is you are the king.
Yes. Barb, number 11.
At, aim, you are a mother. Ata,
Oh, sorry.
what?
No, I was just saying at not im, at im. Sorry, I
Right.
may have. Okay, yeah. And sorry, the next one.
Okay, and at ha'aim, you are the mother.
Yes. Brenda,
Ata Moshe, you are Moshe. At Sarah, you are Sarah.
very good. Yes, mechuz. Ed,
Hu hamelech, he is the king. Hu ha'aim, he ha'aim, she is the mother.
she is the mother. Is that what you just said?
He is the mother. Hu ha'aim, she is the mother.
She is the mother.
Right.
Yeah, he, ha'em, she is the mother. Yes.
Unless it's very modern.
Yes, they're, yeah, I know. But they do that in Hebrew too, for now people who want to be, they will use, I don't know if you know, like people, more modern people are saying they're identifying themselves as more genderless as
Genderless, yeah.
they. And so Hebrew
Yes.
will do that too. Ele melech,
But
they
the,
are a king.
but the vowel, but the nouns still are masculine and feminine.
Yes.
Right.
Just like
That would mess everything up,
it does. I actually think probably they need to come up with a new word,
right?
but
Right.
we'll
I mean,
get,
messing
probably
everything
we'll
up as
get
far
there.
as
Yeah,
you'd have
because
to-
even
you'd
in
have to change
English, it's hard to
everything, right?
conjugate, right?
Right.
Yeah. Anyway, just a side note from modern, but won't happen in the Bible. Okay.
Right.
17.
Ze Yisrael, so this is Israel,
Yes.
and then Zot ha'aretz.
Zot ha'aretz.
So this is the land.
This is the land. It could also actually mean though, this is Israel too, right? Because people actually call the land Israel,
Oh, the
like
land, right.
like Haiti ba'aretz.
Yeah.
Like I don't actually say like I was in Haiti b'Israel. Usually I wouldn't say that unless I was talking to somebody who wouldn't know what I meant by saying Haiti ba'aretz. I was in Israel, like bikalti
Okay.
et haaretz. I visited Israel. Like that's usually I think what people would say in modern spoken, but yeah. So haaretz, like with Jews, of course, maybe Palestinians wouldn't say that, but yeah, but modern Jewish people would say haaretz for Israel. Okay.
Ani Moshe, I am Moshe. Ani Sarah, I am Sarah.
Anisara. Yeah, yes.
Okay. So me, ata,
Me at.
Oh, yeah, me at.
Okay, and the reason we know that is because there's a glottal stop under the top and there's no hey on the end. So me at.
Okay.
So when you see the two dots under a letter, you stop on it.
Oh, okay. got it.
Yeah. Mhm. So
So
that's another
that's-
hint of, yeah.
So I'm blanking out on what that means.
Oh, I know that's what, who
Is-
are you
Okay.
to a female?
Okay, who are you? To a
Who
female.
are you? Me at. So
Okay.
how might we say that to a male then? Who are you to a male?
Miata.
Me ata. Yes. Okay.
Then me, Sarah.
Me Sarah. Yeah.
So who is Sarah?
Who is Sarah? Exactly.
Miha'av, who's the father? And Miata, who are you?
Yes, exactly. Any questions based on that? Or anything we've done so far? Sorry, my face isn't in the camera. Any questions based on what we've done so far? Or any points? So I think if we could turn to page 12, number 5. It's a little bit complicated, but I actually think you guys can do it. Rewrite the sentences below, replacing the underlined word with the word that follows. Change it from a masculine to a feminine, or from the feminine to masculine as appropriate. So I'll do the first one. He, ha'em, which means she is the mother. But the word in parentheses says ha'av, which means the father. So they're asking me to change it to who ha'av. He is the father, because you'd use the masculine pronoun with the masculine word father. Oh, are you guys about to come use the room? Oh, are you just saying hi? Oh, hi. You guys can come down if you want.
Oh.
Oh, are they? Oh,
There are two of mine.
oh yeah. Hi. Oh,
They're-
are
they're
we've
waiting- they're
gone
waiting for me.
over. Do you want to go over a little
Okay.
since I was a little late, or do you guys want to go? It's up to you.
My kids are here, so go for it. It's up to you guys. I don't know.
Do you want to go like 5 more minutes, or are you okay with? Okay. The first one, who Moshe,
Okay.
he is Moses, but the word in parens is Sarah. So he,
Sarah.
Sarah, she is Sarah. Okay, so actually, Alan, I'm gonna have you start because I hear you kind of having a good grip on this.
Okay.
Mispal Shtayim, if you could read the original sentence and translate, and then,
At Sarah, Ata Moshe.
exactly. So he actually went from 1 to 6. He's just reading across. So that's everybody. He didn't
Oh,
go down.
sorry.
No, that's okay. That's okay. We can do it that way. Just, I just didn't want anybody to get confused. So he read At Sarah, you are Sarah, but then it says Moshe. So he changed the pronoun to the masculine Ata Moshe. And one of the ways to remember Ata being the masculine, because it sounds feminine, probably, because of the ah on the end, is that we always talk about God, Ata, in prayers, right? So, and God is masculine in the Torah. So, all right, so actually number 2, but we're just gonna go across zigzag. Okay, Tamar,
Zot haaretz, ze ha'am,
exactly. So Zota Aretz, this is,
the land,
yes,
and ze ha'am this is the people.
very good.
Okay.
And number 7, Barb,
Ani, aim. And this is a trick one because I think it stays ani av.
yes,
Yep.
yes, very good. It was a trick one. Okay. Number 3, Barb, Brenda,
Sarah is a mother. And we're changing it to Moshe. So Moshe Ab.
Yes. And just so you know, Sarah's, it's M, not im. Im is actually the word if. Like im ze efshar, if this is possible. So I know it sounds a little bit different, but it actually completely changes the word from mother to if. So M, yeah. Okay, number 8, Mike.
Ata, Melech, and it'd be At Sarah.
Yes. Or you could do it either way. Ata melech means what?
I'm king. Or you are king.
You are king, masculine, right? You masculine are king.
Right.
But what if we said Sarah? Do we know the word for Malka?
Malka.
Yeah, I don't think we've learned that word yet, but Malka is still, yeah. So Ata Melech, good, or At Malka, or Sarah Malka, or, yeah. Okay, Mispa Arba, Morris,
Sarah Am, or Aim. Sarah is mother. And Moshe Av.
Moshe Ab. Yes, Janine, number 4.
Okay. Me, Ha'av. Who is the father?
Yes,
Me, Ha'aim.
Mi Ha'em, another trick one. Who is the mother?
Who is
Because
the mother?
who doesn't change. It's a genderless word.
Okay.
Alan, number 9.
So bracha, ze Shabbat.
Yes. Actually,
thought
Shabbat
it
is a
was-
feminine
yeah,
word.
I was like,
Yeah, I was
what's
like,
a trick?
actually,
Oh,
that's another trick
tricky.
one. I'm like, no. Yeah.
Tricky one.
Zot
So
bracha,
Shabbat.
zot Shabbat. Yes, exactly. I'm like, wait a minute. No, it doesn't change. Zot bracha, zot Shabbat. Yes.
And then Zot HaShabbat, Ze HaMelech.
Exactly. Zot HaShabbat. This is the Shabbat. Zot, because Shabbat is a feminine word. And just going back to number 9, do we see what the trick there was? They didn't actually change. Yes, because they're both feminine words. Zot HaShabbat. This is the Sabbath. Ze HaMelech. This is the king. I think it's Barb's turn, number 10.
I think it's Ze Melech, and it should also be Ze HaMelech. It just
Exactly.
changes the translation from this is a king to this is the king.
Exactly. And do you want to conclude with the blessing over bread? And we can note that the ha for the word the is attached to 3 of the words in the blessing. In addition to our new word bracha, we see the root bet, resh, chaf, sofit, in the word baruch, right? So if we're like, bracha means blessing, baruch must mean something like that, right? So blessed, baruch, ata, and who is ata? You, and who are we referring to? Blessed are you. Yeah. Adonai, again, the yud for Adonai or Adashem, we'd be saying if we weren't praying. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu. Again, this is the contraction for Ha-Elohim Shalanu. So Adonai is our God. Melech, King, Ha'olam,
Of the universe.
of the universe, or actually world.
Of the world.
World, but in biblical, it means universe. That's how the sages translate it. Hamotzi from limtzoa, the one who brings forth. That's a complicated word in passive. Lechem, anachnu ochlim lechem, bread. Min, and that means from. Min, haaretz.
The lead.
So, amen. So, all right. So we read it together. Baruch atah
Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Amen.
Amen. Yes. And then the next one, the blessing over wine. Again, the word baruch, bracha. So bracha, baruch, atah, Adonai,
Adonai, Eloheinu,
Einu,
melech haolam, borei pri hagafen. Amen.
Amen. So, let's see, Mike, if you want to translate the first phrase, Baruch atah,
Blessed are you,
blessed are you, feminine or masculine,
masculine,
referring to
God.
God. And then Morris, the next phrase,
Adonai Eloheinu,
yes, Adonai Eloheinu, which actually can be translated as God is our God, or God our God. So you can actually put the linking verb in there or not, but the way they've translated is Lord our God. But because the linking verb is silent in Hebrew, it could actually be translated either way. And then Janine, Melech HaOlam.
So king of the universe.
Yes. And the of is implied sometimes. When two words are put together in Hebrew, Sof HaShavua it actually means weekend, but it literally means end of implied the week. So Beit Sefer, school, house of the book, it's implied. So anyway, so Melech HaOlam, king of the universe. And then Tamar, last phrase.
Borei pri hagafen.
Yes. And yeah, so Borei, some livro, to create, pri hagafen, the vine. So those are words we haven't learned yet, but yeah. And again, we see hagafen. Gafen is vine and hagafen is the, yeah. All right,
It's like Bereshit, right?
from Brace, yeah,
Like creation.
yes, exactly. Yeah, so there's a lot of words once you recognize roots, and in Hebrew they use the word shoresh, that means root. And usually most Hebrew words can be brought down to 3 root letters, the shoresh. And then you can kind of like, so with bracha or baruch or livroach, you can recognize bet resh chaf, right? So you're like, I see these letters, it's got to mean blessed or blessed or blessing or, right? Or to bless or something. So yeah. All right, so for next week, if you could just review chapters 1 and 2, I will send a list of, and I think Tamara actually sent me a picture of,
This one, the alphabet.
yeah, the alphabet, which I'll send just to look at. So we have like letter review. The one thing we didn't talk about for the new people is how some letters change form depending on where they are in the word. So for example, we call them like ot sofiot, final letters. So like mem becomes mem sofit, right? So Moshe, the mem in Moshe looks different from the mem at the end of the word shalom, right? Because the mem, when it's in the final position, the final letter of a word becomes a mem sofit, final letter. And they're like, off the top of my head, like 5 or 6 letters in the Hebrew alphabet that do that. Tzadi does it, Chet does it, Chaf,
Nun,
Nun Sofit, Sofit, Tzadi Sofit,
Pei Fei.
Fe Sofit, yeah. So the alphabet that I'll forward, which I think Tamara forwarded to me, will have the final letters and it puts them, so like if we, does everyone know Alef bet bet, Alef bet bet, Gimel Hey Vav? Okay, well, we can sing the alphabet one day, yeah. So anyway, so the final letters are in there as well. So just review the first 2 chapters, and then maybe, if you feel like it, review just the first 10 vocabulary words for chapter 3, which start to address plurals. So they're, well, actually, mostly plurals. It says plurals, but then they use a lot of singular words in there. But anyway, so maybe just look at the next vocabulary words. some of which will be familiar. Abraham, Torah, Leah. Yeah. And
Does anybody want the vowels? Do you want to take a picture of the vowels?
yeah, I can
Oh.
do that, or I can just send it, but I can take a picture of it too.
All right, thank you, Courtney.
All right, thanks, folks. We don't meet again next week. We meet again on the 21st.
Okay.
But I think they are meeting. They're just doing something else. Yes, there we go. All right. Thank you. And if you want to write, I do suggest, like, sometimes for me, writing the words, not just reading the words, is a really good way to remember them. So if you have, like, I don't know if anybody has paper anymore, but paper like this, you know what I mean? Like, does anybody use it? I don't know. But if you have notebooks or anything, I highly recommend writing the words out, because then it's a really strong, like, muscle memory for incorporating it that actually has some corresponding trigger in your brain. So yeah. All right, I'll see you all in a couple weeks.
All right.
Leave out.
Thank you, Courtney.
Bye, Brenda. Bye, Ed.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Sorry, guys. Thanks for being patient.
I think they were ready to sing the alphabet with you.
I know.
So it looks like everything's working fine with the technology.
Totally. Yes. I just didn't know literally you push start. So today I was like, what do I do?
Right, that's how I set it up, so all you had to do was push start.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure. I was like, I was gonna try it and I was like, I better not.